Sandy intertidal zones occur at the shoreline of sandy beaches all around the world. These beaches are composed of loose deposits of sand, gravel, or shells that cover the shoreline in many places. They make up 2/3 of the world's ice-free coastlines. The temperature range of the intertidal zone also varies due to rising and receding tides. The temperature may only vary by a few degrees throughout the course of the year, anywhere between 40 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Precipitation levels vary between location, but average at about 10 to 25 inches annually. This hugely affects the salinity of the seawater. Sandy intertidal zones are found all over the world along the coastlines. One of the largest sandy intertidal ecosystems can be found on the island of Hawaii on its north shore, which is located in the Pacific Ocean. The approximate location of the North Shore is 21 degrees 18 minutes north latitude, 157 degrees 57 minutes west longitude. The soil of sandy intertidal zones is composed of sand, gravel, and shell. Living in the sand are infauna, benthic animals that live in and on the soft sea bottom. Infauna usually construct tubes or burrows and are commonly found in the subtidal waters. Clams, tube worms, and burrowing crabs are infaunal animals. Many infauna live within the sand and feed on smaller microbial life, which also grows and lives between the granules of sand. Sand is not particularly nutrient-rich, however, it is able to harbor many forms of both plant and animal life. The intertidal zone has many other zones within it. Most areas where this biome occur are sloped, which result in different sections of the beach where different life occurs both above and below water. The sloping of this biome is due to the movement of tides, which go far up and down the beach due to lunar activity. The intertidal zone is broken up into 3 primary zones: the littoral, infralittoral, and circumlittoral. The littoral zone experiences the most drastic change because it is in the water during high tides and out of the water during low tides. The infralittoral and circumlittoral zones are both always underwater, and they home most of the sea vegetation and larger infaunic animals. The sandy intertidal zone has many abiotic limiting factors because of its versatile daily cycle. Desiccation is the process of drying out due to the removal of water. This is a common limiting factor for this area because of the low tides which suck the seawater away from the shore, leaving plants and crustaceans vulnerable to the harsh sun and hot, dry air. Salinity is another factor. In areas where the water is only a few inches deep, a heavy rainstorm can completely alter the salinity levels of shallow waters and kill many organisms. Another factor is the sun and how it can heat up pools of water to unlivable conditions for marine life. The intertidal zone is home to many organisms. The primary producers of this ecosystem are ones which gain their energy from the sun through photosynthesis. Phytoplankton are one of the intertidal producers which free float and photosynthesize during the day. Different forms of algae are another producer which also photosynthesizes and grows on rocks and dead corals. Seaweed is another primary producer, and it is vital to intertidal zones to harbor and feed other organisms. Primary consumers within the sandy intertidal zone vary between crustaceans and types of worms and fish. Clams are one type of consumer which is able to filter feed small organisms from the water. Another form of worm, known as the feather duster, uses its long feathery branchiae to collect bits of detritus and microbial life as sustenance. Other crustaceans like crabs are known for being seafloor scavengers who eat detritus as well as bits of algae left on rocks, and sometimes even fish or other small crustaceans. The parrotfish is notorious for its large teeth which it uses to scrape off small amounts of algae from undersea rocks and coral. They also have a pretty good smile. There are multiple predator-prey relationships within the sandy intertidal biome. Birds use the littoral zone as a buffet of sorts to feed their never-ending hunger. Birds like the common seagull prey on most small fish or even crabs if they can get their beaks on one. Another predator-prey relationship is between raccoons and crustaceans and shellfish. Raccoons make a perfect intertidal predator because of their accurate sense of smell during low tide and their long, sharp claws, which are used to open or crack shells. The most common predator-prey relationship of the sandy intertidal zone is between humans and basically all life in this ecosystem. Humans eat every bit of life that comes from this biome, and in some places life is beginning to diminish due to overfishing and overhunting. To live in the sandy intertidal zone, many plants and animals must adapt to their ever-changing environment if they want to live. Some types of seaweed, which live near shore, often take a beating from incoming waves. As an adaptation, they allow their stalks to bend and move as the waves move over them to avoid being ripped from their position. Animals in this environment have successfully been able to adapt to unpredictable conditions. Clams can close their shell so tight that even during low tide they can survive desiccation. Barnacles adapted to live in giant clusters to reduce individual exposure to air and sunlight. Some species of sea stars and crabs have such a thick top covering that they are able to survive out of water for up to 80 hours or during extreme low tides. The sandy intertidal zone is hugely affected by humans and human activity. Sea turtles use the sandy beaches of this biome as a nesting ground for their offspring. They lay their eggs in the sand until they are ready to hatch and journey into the ocean. Humans often impede on these beaches with the hopes of constructing something, but little do they know that they are hurting the sea turtles and their nesting sites. Animal activists and Good Samaritans are fighting to protect these intertidal environments to halt the destruction of these habitats. A recent human effect on the sandy intertidal zone within the Gulf of Mexico was the BP oil spill. 176 million gallons of oil were spilled, and the marine life within the intertidal zone was affected substantially. Species like sea turtles, dolphins, pelicans, and many other marine organisms were severely affected by the spill. Citizens and fishermen throughout the southern United States took the initiative to aid in the cleanup process and try to maintain a healthy ecosystem after such a disaster. One of the species that faces being endangered in sandy intertidal zones globally are black mangroves, which are found all along the southern United States and Caribbean coastlines. Mangroves have a very broad niche. They serve the intertidal community as a multi-purpose plant. Mangroves, for one, create excellent habitats for many kinds of organisms, both land and marine. Mangroves also shed many leaves and branches which end up becoming detritus for other organisms to feed on. Mangrove root systems are massive and are so prevalent along the coast that they serve as a barrier for erosion caused by extreme weather and hurricanes. The mangrove became officially threatened in the late 90s, in fear that it is being over-harvested, cleared, and polluted. Mangroves are very vulnerable to endangerment because of how prevalent they are along the coastlines. Humans have a need and demand for beach access, and many people do not realize how killing these plants has such a negative impact on the entire ecosystem. The mangroves have no natural defense other than their impossibly tangled and thick root systems. Mangroves are used in many places in the world as firewood, construction wood, and even animal fodder. They face daily problems with humans who do not see its environmental benefit. More than 35% of the world's mangroves are already gone. The figure is as high as 50% in countries such as India, the Philippines, and Vietnam, while in the Americas they are being cleared at a rate faster than tropical rainforests. In 2006, a few years after the tsunami hit Southeast Asia, the World Conservation Union and the UN Development Program launched a $62 million mangrove conservation plan called Mangroves for the Future. The 5-year project funded ecosystem restoration and sustainable development in countries affected by the tsunami. In 1996, Florida took initiative towards this threatened species by launching the Mangrove Trimming and Preservation Act, which stated that people can only trim a small number of branches from their mangroves, leaving no less than 6 feet of the plant, and trimming can only be done by a professional or someone delegated by the state. This law is very serious, and anyone who disobeys it can face a $10,000 fine or up to $50,000 and 5 years in prison for each violation. I really hope you have learned something from this, and hopefully your appreciation for the sandy intertidal zone has increased. Thank you.